Coming up on the show, a fiery crash on I-85 and a rescue mission that turned into heartbreak. Ahead, we're going to talk to the CEO of a nonprofit and how she is leaning on compassion to keep carrying her group's mission forward. Also, holiday travel could hit an unexpected turbulence this year, and it's not just because the weather causing the delays. We're going to share how the ongoing government shutdown could ground your getaway. And she found hope in her darkest moment and decided to share it. See how one Atlanta woman is turning that hope into a movement that is now gaining her some national recognition. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their takes as well on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Let's start you off with this. The Supreme Court is set to revisit a landmark voting rights case that could redefine how race is considered in American elections. At its heart, whether protecting minority voters can still be done under the 1965 Voting Rights Act, or if courts will strike down one of its last major safeguards. The group Fair Fight Action connects this to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the law preventing racial discriminatory voting mapping. They say up to 30% of Congressional Black Caucus and 11% of the Hispanic Caucus could lose their seats if Section 2 is overturned. Fair Fight projects Republicans could gain up to 27 additional House seats if the case comes down in their favor. Georgia has joined the case as part of the multi-state America's brief that was submitted, stating compelling states to sort their people by race under the thumb of a federal court creates a perpetual lose-lose situation for legislative decision making. Here now to dive a little bit deeper into this case is Lauren Wargrove. She's the CEO of the rights organization Fair Fight Action and former campaign manager for Stacey Abrams' run for governor. All right, Lauren, welcome to the show again.
Hello, thanks for having me.
All right, glad you're with us this morning. As we just said, the case is out of Louisiana that we were just talking about, but there's a lot on the line here in Georgia as well. Tell us what's at stake.
Yeah, so we recently did an analysis with Black Voters Matter Fund on the larger stakes of this case. So yes, this is a voting rights case that came out of Louisiana, where some non-African American voters, that's how they refer to themselves, challenged the addition of a new Black Opportunity District in Congress. And this is a really radical new theory, that they're challenging the opportunity for Black Louisiana voters to elect a candidate of their choice, saying that that is racial discrimination, sort of turning the argument on its head. And so we should back up, as your entry point made. The Voting Rights Act that was passed in the 1960s was about Black voters' representation and minority voters having the opportunity to fairly elect a candidate of their choice and not deal with lack of representation. So in 1963, before the Voting Rights Act was passed, there were just 4 Black members in Congress. Today, there are about 55. And in a state like Louisiana, where about a third of voters are Black, similarly in Georgia, the argument has been there should be a somewhat commensurate amount of opportunities for Black voters to elect candidates of their choice, and Black candidates specifically. The case today is a rehearing. The Roberts Court is asking a pretty radical question. They already heard this case last session. They're coming back, asking them to really dig into this sort of reverse discrimination, radical argument. And the court is signaling, the way this has been teed up, that they are prepared to gut Section 2, which they've been on a multi-decade tear to gut the Voting Rights Act and really remake elections. So that's sort of the what's at stake, not just for Louisiana, but would impact the entire country, and not just Congress, state legislatures, and local races.
Yeah, you heard the conservative argument there saying that any use of race in redistricting, even to fix discrimination, violates the Constitution. How do you respond to that claim?
That is a radical theory. This is about voters having the opportunity to have accountable representation. Our analysis shows that if you got black voter representation in Mississippi, which is 40% African American, you redraw the map to have 0 black voter opportunity districts. That is a complete remake of Congress, and that is not fairness. That is not accountability. That is a Republican power grab. And so we looked at the real life implications of gutting the Voting Rights Act, combined with this mid-decade power grab gerrymandering that Trump has mandated that Texas and other states do, could ultimately result, if the Roberts Court guts the VRA, in 27 new Republican seats, which would mean one-party rule of Congress. This is a radical, extreme, anti-fairness, anti-freedom initiative that is part of dismantling our civil rights in this country and would really gut the opportunity for people of color and other minorities to have a representative of their choice. So this is really, really concerning and could result in a scramble to redraw the maps in time for 2026. We know this is a far-right Republican priority because they've said it is. We have Steve Bannon and far-right folks in Trump world talking about how they don't have to win new hearts and minds, they just need to rig the maps, right? That was what they were talking about last year. So we're encouraging folks to get involved, to call their members of Congress, to advocate to reform the court and to pass a new Voting Rights Act so that we don't go backwards in time, back to Jim Crow, when American minorities and voters of color did not have representation in Congress. So this is very, very serious, and we're hoping folks will get involved and not let the court let the Southern voters go quietly into the night here. So it's going to be a very big day at the Supreme Court today, the argument, and we'll be doing organizing with Black Voters Matter and other groups as we go forward in the coming weeks.
Lauren, I got a quick 30 seconds here left. I want to know that if you could speak directly to justices about this issue before they rule it, what would you say to them?
We need fairness in this country. Black voters are 85% of black voters live in the South, and all voters should have the opportunity to have fair maps to elect representatives that will advocate for their issues. We do not want to go back in time to a Jim Crow era where black voters do not have the opportunity to elect their candidates of choice, and all Americans do not get the benefit of a real diverse representative Congress.
Gotcha. Lauren, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back right after this. As the federal government shutdown enters its 3rd week, here's where we sit on day 15. Senators will try for a 10th time today to approve House legislation that would reopen the government until November 21st. Yesterday, senators tried and failed to get enough votes to reach the 60-vote threshold needed to cut off the debate. Meanwhile, this is supposed to be an official payday for federal workers who receive pay through paychecks, as well as active duty military. But most workers will not get paid, while President Trump has directed the Department of Defense to pay troops. And a key economic indicator, the Consumer Price Index for September, was supposed to come out today, but was delayed. Let's get the latest now from NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, hello to you, first of all. How enriched are both sides in this on day 15, and is there any place for some compromise in here?
Yeah, very entrenched. You know, we're continuing to hear essentially the same lines from the two sides, and the pressure is mounting, as you just laid out. There are a lot more real-world impacts that are hitting because there are going to be federal workers, for instance, here in D.C., Capitol Police are just missing their first full paycheck. As you noted, military members are going to be paid because President Trump is ordering some funds to be redirected, and we understand he's trying to do the same for other federal law enforcement officers. But right now, barring that, you know, you're starting to really see the rubber hit the road, see the paychecks not hit the bank accounts, and that always adds to the pressure. Another area that we've been tracking is air traffic controllers. They got a partial paycheck, but if this goes another 2 weeks, they're going to be working entirely without pay. And we've seen some folks standing outside of LaGuardia Airport in New York, DCA, Reagan here in DC. They're handing out flyers, trying to help people to understand that they're not going to be getting paid. There could be more delays potentially coming, and that it's not a good situation for people who are working a very stressful job. So the more and more that happens, and presumably they're handing out these flyers to people to try to get them to maybe contact their lawmakers, their local lawmakers, and start to raise the pressure to say, hey, I'm seeing this, this, and this that makes me worried, and it's time for you guys to really get off the starting blocks, because for now it does not appear that there have been any substantial negotiations between at least the top members of each party, and the main sticking point remains the same, these health care provisions that Democrats are continuing to say need to be part of a deal to reopen the government, and that Republicans are continuing to say need to be taken separately after the government is reopened.
Yeah, President Trump now threatening more cuts on what he calls Democrat programs, promising a list to come out by Friday. Do we know what could be on the chopping block?
We don't really, and that is why this list is something a lot of people are kind of waiting to get their hands on. Yeah, he went on about that for some time, about how he thinks these are socially, he said, semi-communist programs, and that there are not going to be any programs that Republicans back that are being taken away. But he did not name any names or get specific. You know, so far there have some DC employees who were laid off and then rehired because there was, in fact, a glitch involved in some of their laying off. So there's been a little bit of confusion around any of the cuts that have taken place so far, any of the federal worker cuts at least, and presumably these would be going hand in hand. Programs that they're getting rid of would also involve more federal workers then being cut as well. But we're a little bit in the dark about exactly what he's looking at there.
Yeah, those hitting the airports may notice some changes. A video message from the DHS secretary came out. What can you tell us about that video?
Yeah, so this is something that the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem instructed airports to play across the country. It's a video that she wants played near security lines that shows her blaming Democrats for the shutdown, essentially, while folks are standing in line, that they would hear a little bit of context if maybe they're seeing longer lines because maybe there are some TSA agents calling out sick, etc. She's there speaking on these video screens, pinning the blame on Democrats. Many airports across the country, though, are refusing to play those videos, saying that they go against their policies on political messaging. Chesley.
All right, Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight today. Really appreciate it. All right, plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. Well, a new report from Goldman Sachs says American consumers are feeling the pinch more than ever before. Analysts now estimate U.S. households are shouldering more than half the cost of recent tariffs, a shift that's driving up prices and pushing inflation higher. Tariffs have already been added close to 0.5 percentage point to the nation's core inflation, and that is expected to climb nearly 3% by December. Let's go inside the numbers now with Professor Sina Galara from Georgia State's College of Business. He joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to us about what's driving the shift on consumers instead of on these companies.
Well, tariffs are increasing the cost of imports, and so that leaves the American importers and businesses with the choice of whether they should pass on these costs to consumer or absorb them or find alternatives. The last two has been difficult, and finding alternatives for business practices that have been cemented for several decades now has been really challenging. It's going to take a lot of time. So the easiest solution for many businesses, at least for the short term, is to pass on these costs to consumers, which will show up in the form of consumer prices rising.
Yeah, there's a figure out there, 55%. How does that translate to the everyday shopper? Is it just a few cents more, or is it a real like sticker shock for major items?
I think it's going to be a tangible impact. Adding up all the tariff costs, some estimates show that this could amount to a few $1,000s per household. So it's very difficult to exactly pinpoint, but for the items that are being tariffed, the consumer will definitely feel a meaningful change in the price they pay.
Yeah. What kind of industries are really going to be most exposed here?
Pretty much all the industries impacted by, targeted by tariffs. So we import a lot of things from a lot of places. Lots of Chinese products, for example, are going to be heavily impacted. They have some of the highest tariff levels. Furniture, plastic items, toys, some electronics, and housing related items, lumber, copper, iron. Pretty much they are vast and wide, and so the administration has been very liberal with where they apply these tariffs, so the effects will be widespread.
Yeah, like those companies you just named, how much flexibility will they really have, or can they just source around the tariffs, or is that just an easier said than done term?
Yeah, the theory is once you increase the cost of import, the American business would be forced to find a replacement domestically. But the big question is there a good choice there? And it's important to realize that there has been a very important, strong, and structural reason that these companies have been sourcing from outside the America, and that has been, a lot of the economics of trade, and the fact that it's very expensive to make many of these items domestically, and so for that reason, many businesses have relied on foreign goods, and they have built their whole supply chains around that. This is something that will take many years, maybe 5 years, 10 years, even if and it may not even work for all the industries, but for the ones that do, it will take time. So they can find good resources domestically. In the meantime, there will be a lot of pain. Either the business has to shoulder that, or the consumer. And if the business shoulders it, the consumers is still, at the end of the day, will be paying that.
Got 30 seconds left. Do you expect these burdens to grow, or eventually we'll see the 60% or 70%, or will they come down? What do you think?
I think for the next year or two, I don't anticipate much change in foreigners paying. So it will be just the American business and American consumer juggling the burden between each other. And a lot of the things that will happen is initially businesses are reluctant to pass on the cost, but they will slowly raise prices and make the consumer pay for it step by step more and more.
Gotcha. Professor Gallara, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Folks, when we return, we're going to talk about the effects of this government shutdown and what the effects it's having on our nation's airports. We'll be right back with that. Stay right there. All right, with the shutdown dragging on, the ripple effects are being felt far beyond Washington, especially at the nation's airports, where millions of Americans are counting on smooth skies for the holidays, especially for the holidays. The U.S. Travel Association estimates the travel economy could lose up to $1 billion per week as the shutdown continues on, every week that the shutdown continues on, hitting airlines, hotels, holiday destinations hard. Air traffic controllers and the TSA staffing shortages are already taking a toll. More than 3,000 flight delays reported in just the past week as controllers work without pay. Industry forecasts show that a record number of travelers, roughly about 75 million Americans, expected between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Wow, that's a lot. Time to welcome in Christina Ernst. She's the Vice President of Alpine Tours. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning.
Or I should say welcome back to the show. We've had you on before, I know.
Thank you.
What are you seeing this week as far as bookings go? Is it a good volume, steady, surging, or softening a bit because of the shutdown?
I think everyone is always ready to travel during the holidays, and the AAA expects over 4 million people just out of Atlanta to travel. So now is a time that many people are starting to book their holiday tickets for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and get prepared for that. The other people have already booked it, so they're kind of double checking everything. But there are lots of ways to minimize the effects of what's going on now with travel. One of the main things that I highly recommend is to always begin right away before you even leave the house. Always have apps downloaded for your airline, for your car rental company, for your hotel, and join the frequent flyer and frequent traveler programs for those. So that will minimize the times for check-ins, no matter what your mode of travel can be.
Are travelers asking different questions now? Like, what's the number one concern that you're hearing about?
They're worried about the shutdown and delays in getting to their destination. And the best way to be prepared is to always, of course, be at the airport early and make sure that you are available, have food available, have battery packs available and everything. But I'm still seeing an upcharge or uptick in travel. People are still booking trips. We are now shifting it to maybe midweek travel or actually traveling on the holiday itself to minimize an impact with, so many people at the airports, and just taking extra steps to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Has there been any changes on your end? Are you holding prices or adding some surcharge to it?
I'm not really seeing a surcharge. I actually feel like the airlines are staying pretty steady right now. I am seeing lots of flight cancellations with certain products going into the holiday season. So we are rebooking our clients and travelers onto other flights or finding other options available for them. Pre-booking seats, making sure everything is up to date, luggage is prepaid, those little steps. But right now, I feel like there is still a strong trend with people wanting to be with their loved ones or wanting to be out of here for the holidays, and so they are taking those steps and booking travel.
Yeah. Now, if this shutdown lingers on a little bit, let's say, what's your forecast of how holiday travel chaos could be?
Definitely to be there early. And so I definitely feel like we are going to be experiencing chaos over the holidays as we are dealing with a lack of workers at the airports and everything. As they're there for our safety as well. And so the main thing is going back to having actual books, being prepared with all your travel information. One of the things that I noticed, I'm in and out of airports every few weeks, and people are always scrambling with dead phones or trying to find their documentation for their trips. And so if we can go in and be prepared with those certain things, know where your travel destinations, your booking numbers, especially airline flights, having apps downloaded, checking those if there are any flight delays, and what are you going to do when you get to the next destination in case there is something. So I always recommend don't book important things on the first day of getting to your destination. And also, there's some things that people don't do, and that's like maybe realizing that they can pre-order food at the airport. So using the Chick-fil-A app, Starbucks, P.F. Chang's, and that way you don't have to stand in those long lines, especially if you are scrambling trying to get to another flight.
There you go.
If there is a delay.
Yeah, some good advice, Christina. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We got much more show for you coming up right after the break. This is The Take. Welcome back to the show. 2 deadly crashes on Metro Atlanta highways just days apart left families and friends grieving and investigators still searching for answers. One of them happened on Monday on I-85 in Jackson County. It was a semi-truck that slammed into a Dodge van, setting off a fiery and deadly chain reaction crash. Several fatalities were initially reported, but late yesterday, an 8th body was confirmed to have been found in the van. The victims, 3 adults, 5 children, ranging from the ages of 45 down to 2 years old. The National Transportation Safety Board, along with GSP, has opened a safety investigation into the crash. So far, the names of those that were killed in that crash have been not officially released. The driver of the semi-truck, 33-year-old Kane Hammock from Gainesville, was arrested and charged with 8 counts of vehicular homicide. He has been held on bond. The van was being operated by a nonprofit Furkids animal shelter rescue and shelters, which operates the largest cage-free no-kill shelter in the Southeast. At the time of the crash, the van was carrying 37 kittens or cats en route to a partner shelter in Vermont. Today with us is the Furkids CEO and founder, Samantha Shelton. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is an unimaginable tragedy right here. How are you and your team holding on right now, both emotionally and as the family of rescues?
It's been a roller coaster of emotions for us. Obviously, we are heartbroken for the loss of life in this accident, and yet we feel so much gratitude that our driver is alive and walked away, and that we were able to successfully recover 35 of the 37 cats that were on board. The fact that anyone walked away from this accident is a miracle. And so we feel just so much gratitude that our driver is safe, and it's just been a roller coaster.
From what you can tell, can you tell us what happened from what you know?
Yes. So our driver was watching the Google Maps and seeing that up ahead there was an accident. So he was slowing down, and GPS was taking everyone, routing them off the highway. And so he slowed down, he came to a complete stop. And the way he describes it is that within seconds, the most violent thing occurred. The car slammed into the back of him, pushed him over to the left into an 18-wheeler. And thank God, because that he was then attached to the 18-wheeler and dragged 100 yards away from the explosion. Had that not happened, he would not be with us today, neither would the cats.
How's the driver doing today?
He is, he's fine. He has some bruises. He has some lacerations on his face. He's overwhelmed with emotion. Yeah. Just that feeling of, wow, I survived, and it's a miracle.
And you said it was, how many cats were on board?
We had 37 cats, so he was actually transporting the cats up north to a no-kill shelter in Vermont. It's part of a life-saving program that we launched several years ago that allows us to save more homeless animals from Atlanta. They don't have the supply up north that we have here in the South, and so it's just another way for us to save local animals in our community. We do all the vetting for them, and then we transport them up north where they can be adopted. So these cats had homes waiting for them up north, and so we're going to continue to do our transport program. But it really just made me think that we are doing so much to save lives here locally. We're on the road, we're taking risks that sometimes we don't even know and realize that we're taking. And we're doing everything that we can to save lives. And this was just a horrible, horrible tragedy. And it's just surreal that we were involved in it.
And in the midst of this heartbreak, is that where you're finding hope right now, in the fact that you're saving lives?
We are finding hope. We are digging deep, and we know that we're going to keep going and doing the important work that we're doing. And the community has been amazing. We're so thankful and grateful just for all the well wishes and people responding and reaching out to say, hey, we love you. We care about what you're doing. You're doing important work. We're here to support you. And it just means so much to us. Please adopt. Come to Furkids.org and adopt. We now have 37 extra kittens that need homes, because sending them up north allowed us to pull cats from animal control shelters around the state, and now we're not able to do that. So we need more homes for animals. So please
Samantha,
open up your homes and hearts and adopt.
Absolutely. Samantha, after something like this, what message do you carry in your heart for everyone who's grieving alongside of you right now?
Oh, I don't know if you can see in my eyes, I've cried a lot of tears. I'm just heartbroken, the loss of life. It's just devastating. And there are no words sometimes. What do you say? It's just, my heart goes out. I will never forget this moment. And I will always think of these families. And I'm just so sorry for everyone involved. It's such a tragedy. And it just goes to show and remind us all that we can't be distracted drivers. Please put your cell phones down, because that is probably what happened in this case. And the driver of the semi-truck, he knew it the moment that it happened.
Samantha Shelton, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. All
right. Well, we had another recent fatal crash happen this past Friday on Georgia 400 in Forsyth County. Multi-vehicle collision, which left several people trapped in the wreckage. Crews had to use the jaws of life, and at last report, at least one person was listed in critical condition. Both crashes were on different highways, same heartbreak, and both seem to have shared those rear end impacts that we hear about so much. Let's bring in 11Alive's Gridlock Guy, Doug Turnbull, to help us dissect some of this and what's going on. Doug, talk to us about it. You hear about it all the time. You're on the roadways, and what causes this, or what's the leading cause of this, I should ask you?
Well, for sure. And before we even get to driver behavior, the biggest, worst crashes in my years of reporting happen when fast meets slow. And I know that sounds obvious, but think about the times of day that could be. In these two cases, these were anomalies, but a lot of times you think about the early hours of rush hour around 6 a.m. when we're, heavy in our coverage, Rachel Cox Rosen and I on 11Alive, when the fast meets slow, right? They're starting to see volume build. The person that forgets to hit their brakes is the one that caused the crash, right? And same in the afternoon, and kind of the 2:30 and 3:30 hour or half hours as well. So you think about that, and then also there's distraction, their speed, and then in the case of the 400 crash, an alleged DUI as well, where if you mix any of those things together, you mix DUI with driving at all, but certainly distraction and speed, you create a concoction where most times, let's face it, most times you get away with it. It's the time you don't, and it's absolutely tragic. On the 400 case, a helicopter ambulance came, shut 400 down both directions, a person in critical condition, multiple injuries. On the 85 case, 8 people were killed, not to mention the scare for those cats there too. And 2 of those cats, by the way, got away and are strays they're still looking for. So you never know what one bad decision can cause, and certainly you're more likely to have that happen when, again, fast meets slow.
Yeah, we talk about that. We talk about being distracted. I guess the sun obviously would play maybe a role in that, being blinded by that. I mean, how often does this happen? How often do you hear about it?
Well, look, having these happen 2 times in 3 days, you start going, what pattern? What's going on in Georgia? I really just think it was 2 situations that they were separate from each other, different interstates, different parts of town. But look, we're about to go through a time change, all right? And when it gets, when it gets light, I'm trying to think of a fall back, it gets lighter earlier, so you're going to have more sunshine and morning drive. All right, starting here later this month. Sunshine is a big thing. Like you mentioned, Chesley, you forecast it every day. This dry month, we saw it out on the roads. You can be blinded by something, and you mix in, say, distraction and extra speed. Kaboom. You've got your visibility limited in a way that limits everybody, and then those other factors, you can have it.
So would you say it's the volume for us here in Atlanta? I mean, that plays a role in it as well, that leads to these pileups?
Yeah, look, it's a driver behavior mixed with heavy volume. And again, you go from a place of light volume up to heavy volume. Maybe you're going from the suburbs that get closer to the city. You're humming along 80 miles an hour, and suddenly things blow up to 35. That's where we get our worst problems. And also the arterial roads, the roads that have that 35, 45 mile an hour speed limit, are actually the most fatal out of all the ones you can drive on.
Wow. Doug Turnbull, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight, man. We got to be safer. We got to be safer.
Absolutely. Prayers to everybody involved in those wrecks.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. All right, folks. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us next on the show to let us know how our money matters. Stay right there. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Instagram's changing the rules again. This time, though, it's all about the teens. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. And Maribel, we got new tools, new limits, but maybe a safer scroll.
Yes. Good morning, Chesley. We'll start here. Instagram tightening safety settings for teen users. The Meta-owned app will now align its teen accounts rules with PG-13 movie standards. Teens will have limits on who can follow or message them, and a wider range of mature content will be filtered out. Instagram says it will also hide posts featuring strong language or content promoting risky behavior. The update comes amid increased scrutiny over the effectiveness of teen accounts. A study by child advocacy groups this month found that nearly 60% of 13 to 15-year-olds using them saw inappropriate content this year. Meta just disputes those findings and says it's committed to addressing concerns about young users' mental health. The Trump administration may soon embargo cooking oil from China as trade tensions escalate. In a Truth Social post Tuesday, President Trump called the move, quote, retaliation for China's import ban on U.S. soybeans. Now, Beijing has not purchased a single American soybean since May, compared to last year's $13 billion buy. China is turning to South American suppliers like Argentina to work around U.S. tariffs. It's also had record high exports of cooking oil last year, 43%, bought by the U.S. The administration says the oil ban is just one of several trade responses under consideration. Walmart is partnering with OpenAI to let shoppers browse and buy using ChatGPT. The feature will include Walmart items along with clothing, entertainment, and food from third-party resellers. Customers can complete purchases directly in the chat using OpenAI's new instant checkout tool. This is OpenAI's biggest retail partnership to date, but financial details weren't disclosed. Walmart plans to add its Sam's Club catalog to feature shortly after it launches sometime this fall. And finally, let's talk about, what's our last story here? New merit badges. Scouting America has unveiled 2 new merit badges designed to teach young people about AI and cybersecurity. The organization says the AI badge focuses on social media deepfakes and how artificial intelligence touches all aspects of daily life. The cybersecurity badge empowers scouts to better protect themselves and their families from online threats and scams. Along with the badges, the group launched an AI chatbot named Scoutly over the summer that answers questions about the organization. Scouting America's CEO says the new badges should also help prepare young people for a workforce increasingly dependent on advanced technology. Chesley, I maintain learning how to build a fire from scratch is still useful. So is coding.
That's absolutely right. A patch goes a long way. Thanks a lot, Maribel. Really appreciate it. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We got a very special guest coming up right after the break. Welcome back to the show. She turned a moment of despair into a mission of hope. Atlanta's own Gloria Humana, founder of the Hope Booth, is being honored as one of L'Oreal Paris's 2025 Women of Worth for reimagining how we reach people in their darkest moments. You know, her immersive installations and her story are changing the way communities are talking about mental health. Gloria joins us now to share how her journey began and what's next. Gloria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Talk to me about how surprised you were to receive this honor.
Oh my goodness. Well, firstly, to find out that I was one of 10 of 4,000 nominations was absolutely mind-blowing and unbelievable. I know sometimes, we think as leaders, a lot of times we know our work is impressive, but more than being impressive, we aim for it to be impactful. And so for it to be recognized by a global brand like L'Oreal Paris was just absolutely surreal for me.
Yeah. This is for your work with the Honor Booth. Talk to us about your journey to create this tool.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Hope Booth was created ultimately out of pain on October 29, 2011. That was the day that I nearly lost my life to suicide. If it weren't for the power of that 4-letter word, hope, that I found on that day, I wouldn't be here today. And so really, over the last few years, we wanted to find a way to create something that would help people access hope and access mental health care, regardless if it was 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., regardless if they had the resources or the finances. We believe that hope should be accessible as telephone booths once were. Back in the day when we used to have them in the city, you were just a few coins away from being able to connect to someone. When we started to look around in our city, in our world, we started to see these mental health statistics that were astronomical. We see that 900,000 people are losing their life to suicide every single year. And so we thought to ourselves, what does it look like to use our creativity to impact people in the middle of the street, to impact people at schools, to impact people at an airport, wherever people are, to give them consistent 24/7 free access to mental health. And so that's when we created the Hope Booth. And what we do ultimately is extremely innovative at heart. We partner with a science board of neurologists, psychologists, therapists, and social workers to create something very unique. We remodel old telephone booths into these evidence-based, interactive, immersive experiences that are designed to spread hope and then connect people to local help and support within a 5-mile radius. So this could look like cost-reduced shelter, therapy, food banks, whatever someone could be in need of that could support their mental health journey. That's our goal. And so it's been absolutely incredible to be on this journey of something that started as a dream now is something we are walking in and seeing so many lives impacted in a short amount of time.
This is a great idea. I would imagine young people, beyond my generation wouldn't know what a phone booth is. So this is kind of reimagined, like you said, into something that can help people. What are some of the reactions that you're getting from people who step inside?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reactions are a really wide spectrum because our users are a wide spectrum. We have people who are living on the streets who experience the Hope Booth to simply find the nearest shelter to them. And then we have people who stumble upon the Hope Booth actually out of curiosity. They see it at Pond City Market. They see it. It's vibrant. It's beautiful. It's very inviting and warming. So people come out of curiosity, but they stay out of desire and as need. And we've seen oftentimes, a lot of times the Hope Booth is actually an anchor in a community. And we have so many families who reach out to us and say, hey, my son has been struggling with schizophrenia. He's been struggling with mental health issues, and we can't afford traditional mental health care. And so our son walks to the local Hope Booth every single week, and that is what's keeping him alive. That is his source of hope. And so when we hear stories like that, we recognize that this work is so much bigger than creating something unique, but it's actually creating something with an accuracy that has the ability to impact people and keep people alive. You know, right now we see about a 78% increase in hope just after one experience that people are reporting. We have about 58% of people who are actually finding their therapists through the Hope Booth, who are finding communities and churches and opportunities to connect with people. And we've seen countless suicides averted. And so it's been absolutely incredible to see that the data, the numbers, all of this really points to individuals who hold stories that are meaningful. And we are so honored to get to fight on behalf of those lives.
Very, very nice. Now, you got this recognition. Are you hoping that it will expand the mission?
Oh, absolutely. I know for sure that being a 2025 L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth honoree is no small feat. You know, that is a global brand that prioritizes not just beauty on the outside, but also on the inside. For the last 2 decades, they have been consistently celebrating women who have exuded joy, who have exuded power, resilience, and those are all things that our organization cares deeply about. But really, what L'Oreal Paris is doing is creating a platform to remind us all that we're all worth it. And that at the end of the day, when we all play our part, when we put our hearts into the work that we do, we put our hands to the plow, real impact can happen, real change can happen. And I'm excited to be an honoree that represents Atlanta, one of the best cities that there is in the United States, dare I say in the world, to get to be here to represent our city. And so this honoree, you know, it's beyond just me. This is for the city that raised me. This is for the people who are committed to hard work, who are committed to impact, who are committed to mental health specifically. And I'm just honored to get to be here.
Gloria, first of all, congratulations to you. Thanks so much for all that you're doing for our community. And we hope to have you back on after you get this award and you begin to expand. We want to hear more about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. All right. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to have a look at your forecast plus my final take when we return. There's a song out there that says the beat goes on, and that's how the weather is moving, folks. Temperatures in the 80s. We start off on the cool side, then we warm up nicely during the afternoons. That's what we're seeing. We'll see it again tomorrow as well. Mostly sunny skies for your Thursday. 81 for the high temperature. Slightly lower on Friday. We'll be at 80 with a few more clouds moving in by the afternoon. Got a front that's going to be approaching the area. By the time we hit Saturday, we'll get up to 82. Now, it's ahead of the front. The front moves in, brings that rain for us on Sunday. Very welcomed. Very welcomed. We need that rainfall, folks. And so that's going to be good for us by the time we get to Sunday. We're looking at 77 degrees. Behind that front, temperatures get back down to where they should be for this time of year. Our average would be 75. Of course, we'll hit that on Monday under partly to mostly sunny skies. We'll hold on to that sunshine for Tuesday as well with 77 for the afternoon high temperature. We'll take it, folks. So enjoy these bonus days, these temperatures well above our average into the 80s while you can. You'll have them for the rest of the week. Got a question for you. What time actually means dinner time, would you say? Well, it's different for a lot of us, right? Because it also could be different from day to day. All kinds of factors play a role, from our work schedule to our social calendars. Tasting Table magazine surveyed their readers on a preferred time to eat dinner. Well, the answers range from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. But what is the perfect time to eat dinner? Well, when it comes to our health, most experts say, well, yes, there is a time. They say dinner should be consumed at least 2 hours prior to bedtime. It's believed that this timing aids in providing our digestive systems significant time to digest and absorb the nutrients. This time frame also helps prevent reflux and negative impacts on your sleep. You know, you eat that big steak, you be tossing and turning, that kind of thing. They also say this: smaller and more frequent meals are easier for us to digest. So that means we're back to the original question. What time is a perfect time for dinner? They're saying at least 2 hours before you go to bed. I mean, what would be the great time? Is it 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock for some? I don't know. Well, the answer will be whatever's perfect for you and whatever works for you. Don't others try to dictate what time you do what you do. You know, what works best for you, folks? Like today, whatever you want to do in that sunshine, enjoy. But make sure you come on back and join us for another take starting tomorrow. We got much more for you coming up on 11 Live Plus. Join us for there with all kinds of information. We'll see you.